good. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we like to hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
better
good.
than the alternative, you know.
Yeah, no, of course. Because you had a few operations, didn't you? So you've been
Yeah,
quite unwell.
I had a sudden fall
Okay.
and I had to have neck and spinal surgery.
Oh wow, that's very big. That is
Yeah,
massive. Have you recovered now, or are you still,
pretty
you
much.
know?
Pretty much. I'm still doing PT to
Yeah.
get, full range of motion back, but
Mm.
it's pretty astonishing when you consider that when I fell, I couldn't move at all.
Well, that is scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the help though. I mean, like everything was
Oh, yeah. I
yeah.
found a great doctor and went to a great rehab center that is actually named for and was the gift of a very famous American actress named Helen Hayes.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so it was so wonderful to be in that kind of atmosphere to heal.
Yeah, yeah, to where you sort of need to be and to where, your background is
Yeah,
as
it
well.
was it was marvelous because I would tell people to roll me out, because I was in a wheelchair and they rolled me out to her portrait in the
Mm,
lawn. And I would say I knew her.
mm.
And then what? What?
Okay.
Really?
Wow.
Most people don't know a whole lot about her anymore,
Mm,
younger people.
mm.
So it was quite wonderful to say, yes, I knew her quite well. So,
Wow. How's it affected your acting? Are you still acting at the moment, or is it sort of
oh,
slowed
yeah.
down, or are you still doing
Well, it
auditions
slowed
and
down because I was in rehab,
yeah.
but I'm actually filming a new short on Sunday. And last Saturday, I did a reading of a new one woman show that I've written.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing a bit then.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kept me
yeah.
busy because if I can write, then I can figure out what it is I can do and tailor it to that.
Mm. Where did the acting all start for you? Like, how did it begin? And what made you decide to join the industry at the time?
Wow. I honestly don't know, except that I loved storytelling and stories.
Mm.
And I lived in my imagination a lot.
Okay.
And I think
Yeah.
that um, when I started to go to school, I loved literature. I loved reading the plays. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to be in this magical world.
Mm.
And and it's pretty much, and it's funny because, a lot of people don't know what they want to be when they grow up.
Mm.
And I just always knew this was it.
Mm.
And my mother kept saying, have something to fall back on, have something to fall back on.
Yeah. And did
So
you have? Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
I took credits so that I could teach.
Okay. Wow. Are you still teaching as well?
Yeah,
Alongside acting.
I do coaching now for actors. I used to teach English as a second language,
Mm.
but now I just coach actors for their auditions, or particularly if they want to do Shakespeare, or if they're trying to get into a graduate school or a drama school.
Wow. Wow. So you sound like you know quite a lot to be able to teach others as well.
I hope I do. But I believe you're a lifelong
Yeah.
learner. So you go into things with your students that you might never have thought of.
Mm. Wow. With your career, did you expect to land roles within video games, or was you hoping to stay on
Never,
screen? Yeah.
never,
Okay.
never. I mean, I'm pretty much a classical actress,
Mm.
a classical character actress, and I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that actors even did video games. I
Mm.
thought they, kind of all AI generated.
Yeah.
And I got asked to do an audition, and uh, it was for Grand Theft Auto 5.
Mm.
And it was a completely different character, completely different scene.
Mm.
And it was very, very secretive. Nobody knew what it exactly was for. And there were other actors going, what is this? I don't get this. And I asked the question of the casting director, what kind of accent or voice or whatever do you want?
Mm.
That was the key in. And so I did that. And then the next thing I knew, they had called and offered me the part. And it's like, what? What?
Mm.
I don't understand. What I'm doing what?
Mm.
Of course, they didn't at the time tell you what game it was.
Yeah.
So um, I arrived to the studio and they put me in a motion capture suit.
Okay, so you had to do that as well. You had
Oh,
to do
yeah.
a lot of that as well. Yeah.
And I had no idea. I was like, oh, thank God I lost 10 pounds, you
Okay.
know, because
Yeah.
it's skin tight and there's all
Mm.
kinds of little balls. You can look it up on Google and
Mm.
you can see like Benedict Cumberbatch doing Smog.
Mm.
Um, it's just, it was fascinating. And then they put the headgear on you. And so I was sitting waiting to go into the studio.
Mm.
And the Stephen Ogg, who plays Trevor, and I were sitting
Yeah,
outside.
because you
And
had a lot of scenes with Trevor, didn't you? So
oh yeah,
I assume you
almost
worked with
every
him the most with
yeah,
Stephen Ogg. Yeah.
yeah, and which was delightful.
Mm.
And we're sitting outside, and the director came out and he said, "Well, we're building the set." And I'm hearing a little bit of clanking and everything. And I thought, oh, okay. And they opened the door and said, "We're ready for you now." And it was a blank room.
Mm.
And I just went, "Where's the set?"
Yeah.
They took me over to a bank of computers and showed me.
Well.
Went, that that's here?
Mm.
And they had a seat for me and just a plain like pipe, like a
Okay.
bar. And that was where my computer was on the table in front of
Okay.
the trailer. And so they said, "Yeah, this is it."
That's your
And
room.
the thing that was amazing is that when I was typing,
Mm.
at first you're just going like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
And
think it's like
and
imaginary. Yeah.
and the director Ron said, "No, no, no." Ron said, "No, no, no. That's wrong. You're not typing real things.
Mm.
We can tell that."
Mm.
So it was so precise. And you had to keep repeating for the different permutations,
Mm.
seeing if the player wanted to go this way or that way or do that. And it was just probably, other than Shakespeare, it's the most precise work I've ever done.
Mm.
And after, I guess we'd been working at like 8 hours,
Mm.
and I did a scene and they said, "No, no, we're going to play back your voice because maybe you're getting tired or maybe you're dry, but your voice doesn't match the same timbre.
Mm.
It has to match exactly." So I got a little water, listened to it, went, "Oh yeah, that's lower."
Yeah.
So it was so particular and precise,
Accurate. Mm.
challenging. And it was so much fun.
Mm.
You had to be really precise. And Stephen is just so energetic and
Yeah.
creative in the moment. And so you wanted to take him in and yet still be precise.
But didn't Stephen say he didn't want to do his role though, or something at one point, and that he's not into all the video game and stuff? I saw in an
Uh,
interview he's.
I think I saw an interview, but I think he's really embraced it. But he's gone on. He moved from New York, I think, to LA and
Mm.
has been doing a lot of TV and film work out there.
Mm. Yeah. Well.
But it was a wonderful collaboration, and our director was fantastic. And he actually is the same director
Mm.
after 11 years when I came back. So that was absolutely delightful.
Well. I mean, it's incredible how they put it all together. Really, it's quite fascinating.
They
Especially
have,
with the whole computer details as well, and how it's so accurate with how they put it on the actual game.
it's
Yeah.
also, they work out plans
Mm.
for the different modules that come up. They've worked out a whole history
Mm,
of every character and where they want it to go. It's mind-boggling.
mm. Wow. And did you work with anyone else on the game, or was it mainly Stephen Ogg? Was your
My
collaboration for the
my
scenes?
first time it was mostly with Stephen
Yeah. Mm,
because I was sending him out on missions.
mm. What is Maud's backstory, and how did she end up as a bail bondswoman in Sandy Shores? Where did all that come from?
Um, they didn't give me a whole lot of background information, just what was in the script and implied. But I always thought that she was alone at that point in time.
Mm,
And now, because I have a daughter who, if you take in 11 years, but if you add in how old she actually is supposed to be, I actually would have had the daughter then, but I didn't know
mm,
it at this point in time.
mm,
But I think she was a single mom and she was trying to figure out how to make a living
mm.
and scrabble to get the two of them some kind of existence. And so they bought a trailer, and somehow she hooked up into the bail bondsman thing.
Yeah.
And so she was able to direct that whole business from the trailer, not only where they jailed the people until the authorities came and took them, but
Mm,
also I think she lived there, she cooked there, she had her daughter there, but probably um, a lot of times her daughter was at school or asleep or whatever. And
mm,
maybe she even had, babysitters come, neighbors and things. But that was my idea, that she was kind of this very strong, hard scrabble woman who was trying to make a life.
mm.
She dreamed of getting better. If you watch or play the last scene where she tells Trevor that she is retiring, she says, I want a house and a picket fence and a dog.
Mm,
And I think she's hoping that one of these bail bonds things will come through and will be a jackpot.
mm,
But I also think she hopes that she will meet a man who might be able to provide her with that.
mm.
That was my
Do you
thinking.
think the man could have been Trevor?
No, because I
No.
think she thinks of Trevor as the son she never had,
Yeah, true. I did see that in the clip. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But and also Trevor's just a little cray cray.
Mm, yeah,
Her,
yeah.
I think he's just a little too much of a loose cannon,
Mm,
and she trusts him to go after these criminals and go at it 100%,
mm,
but she doesn't trust him, I think, with her real life. And it's interesting because I've been doing a lot of thinking before I went back,
mm,
and I thought, if she does have a daughter, maybe that was something she kept secret from everybody.
mm,
So, or maybe her daughter was off with another relative or
mm,
a sister or something, because she didn't want the child to be tainted by that world.
mm. Okay. I mean, I know you said that they didn't give you too much information on her sort of backstory and character, but how does Moore's character reflect the larger themes of rural life and crime in Grand Theft Auto as well, do you think? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think she sees places like Sandy Shores as um, a safe haven for those who might not have the money to be downtown or in a beautiful apartment.
Mm,
Um, it's a place where she can live and have a basic minimum life.
mm,
Um, I think she's really a good person at heart and is a law abiding citizen. And she somehow thought maybe because of all the people around her, maybe where she's lived. She knew the criminal element, so to
Mm.
speak, and she thought, this is a way in for me to do something ethical and yet be on the periphery of this world and bring them to justice and make some money out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Um, but why do you think also with Trevor's side of things, why do you think he takes on these jobs from you as well, like as your character? And is it for the money or is there other motivations for him?
I think if Trevor weren't doing this, he'd be locked up. So I think this is a way for him to stay out of jail and yet stay connected
Okay.
himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, because you would have thought he would get locked up for doing it as well, for what he's doing. But yeah, it's just a video game, so
But you don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Um, how do you think the relationship with Maude and Trevor serves as a narrative device in the game?
I think it's really wonderful because there is an age gap. Um, and there are several characters who are older within the game.
Mm,
So I love that they go generationally.
mm,
But I also think that Maude and Trevor are a male-female relationship that is not based on sex or partnering up.
mm,
Uh, I mean, she does say, you're like the son I never had, although she's like, God, you're a crazy son.
mm,
Um, and I think that's a really lovely narrative to put into the game, that there's a female character who is strong, who is independent, and Trevor respects her, I think. And it's
mm,
not based on a relationship or hooking up or anything like that. That's
mm,
what I think is a really interesting theme and narrative,
mm,
throughout the game,
mm.
that they have different kinds of relationships with different characters.
Yeah, so it seems like there's quite a lot more mutual respect than transactional
Yeah,
business. Yeah.
absolutely. Even
Mm,
though, it is transactional, she sends him out, he brings
mm,
them in, she pays them.
mm. Yeah, I mean, and I know you said that he's more of a son to you, and stuff like that. But like, what do you think makes her trust Trevor with the bounties?
I think he's got a really good robo sense of where the scum live.
Mm,
He's in that world, but not part of it. He was part of it. And
mm,
so he's the perfect bounty hunter because he knows exactly where to go.
mm,
He might even know some of these people.
mm.
So I think that's why he was a great asset to hire.
Yeah, but do you not believe that Trevor's personality is an asset or a risk in the line of work, or do you think he's,
Oh yeah, I think he's a
unpredictable?
ticking time
Yeah,
bomb, and
yeah.
she doesn't. I think before she says I'm going to retire, um, I think she is waiting for the phone call that says that Trevor went off and
Mm,
killed a whole bunch of people or ran off himself. That would not surprise her.
mm. Okay. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, but going on to Maud more about herself, do you think she ever feels guilty about sending people to prison, or do you think she believes that everyone you catch deserves it? Um,
I do. I think
yeah.
she particularly picks cases that to
Mm,
her they're sinners, they've done something, they're criminals, and they need to be put away.
mm,
And I don't think she thinks much about them other than as they did this, therefore they deserve that.
yeah. Okay. Um, do you think Maud, though, I don't know if you've covered it already, but living in a place like Sandy Shores, do you think it influences your sense of right and wrong for her for her character?
Yeah, because I think she's in amongst the people.
Mm,
She's not in an apartment tower with the wealthy.
mm,
She's much more blue collar. She's not with the bankers, and she's not with the gangs. She's she's herself, but with real people,
mm.
in Sandy Shores, I think, as opposed to, the towers where some of the other characters live.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she seems to know the criminals quite well. I mean, are there any criminals that Maude would refuse to pursue as
Oh,
a
that's
bounty, or
really.
is there a line that she wouldn't cross with people?
I think if someone were super dangerous, she might not, because it might come back and haunt her.
Mm,
Um, I also think, well, it's interesting because in Bottom Dollar Bounties, the new module, she does go after, or she directs the new owner to go after women.
mm,
And in the first iteration, they were only men
mm,
that she went after.
mm.
So that's an interesting question. Is there a line? Is there somebody, or if she knew them personally?
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe that's a thing we might learn about her in the future with new updates if there's any coming. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think she ever has fear for her own safety? I mean, she has to get quite close to a lot of violent people, or has it just become a normal thing?
Yeah, I do think she's afraid, especially now, thinking about it, if she has a daughter,
Mm,
there would be, but I think that's part of why she keeps herself really strong physically.
mm,
Um, she, and I think she keeps herself very grounded
mm,
because she knows she's dealing with these people that are very, very violent. But
mm.
I think once Trevor has disarmed them and they're locked up, Trevor kind of does the dirty work for her.
Yeah.
And then the authorities come and get the person.
Mm,
So it might only be that, let's say at night, somebody's pounding on the cell wall or
mm.
something. And she's like, shut up. You know,
Does it not bother you though that you might end up, killing them instead of capturing them because of how crazy he is? Like, does it not worry you, or worry Maud, should I say?
well, I think in the beginning it did.
Mm,
And then you actually hear my daughter Jeanette say in the new module, she says, we prefer you to bring them in alive because it's too messy to clean up and it's a problem and we have to fill out forms. So I
yeah.
think that there have been times when
Mm,
Trevor killed people and brought them in dead.
mm,
But I think it's really, she's a canny businesswoman.
mm,
And she says, you get more money if they're alive.
mm.
And I
Okay.
think wants them alive.
Yeah. And that's the professional side of it, of course, for Maud.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. I mean, but with Trevor, though, I mean, some people might say that working with him, who calls himself a criminal, is quite hypocritical. How do you justify this partnership?
that's interesting. I think there is something in Trevor that has affected her heart. Maybe he
Mm,
reminds her of someone
mm,
and she gives him a pass.
mm,
There's something in in the relationship that reminds her, is a memory, or is something he said something to her at some point.
mm,
Because also when she tells him, he does not laugh at her dreams or aspirations. So I kind of imagine that maybe there were a couple nights after he brought somebody in that they both had a whiskey bottle and they shared it, and
yeah.
and something happened that she gives him a pass.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, you could be a game creator as well. So, yeah,
Well, that's what actors do. We come up
true.
with
Yeah,
world.
and you put work into it as well, don't you? You put work into you can sometimes put work into your own characters and put your own ideas ahead. So that's cool. I like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Um, would Maud ever consider taking bribes or working with corrupt law, do you think, to get ahead?
I don't think so.
Mm,
The way I see her,
mm,
um, I think that if she found out, for example, that a cop was dirty, that she'd go after him for a bounty.
mm. Okay.
That
Wow.
I think she has a
That's how
strong,
dangerous she can be towards
yeah.
corrupt law and yeah.
I
Wow.
think there's a sense of righteousness
Mm,
that's like, no, this is the line you don't cross, not
mm,
with me. Because I think she's very real. She doesn't like people who play act.
mm. Okay. I've got a few more questions about Maud. How does the bounty hunting mechanic affect the way players view Maud's role in the game on a more personal level towards the players?
Um, I think it's got to be she's deeper and more grounded
Mm,
than I am. She's lower to the ground, so that changed my posture, how
mm,
how I moved. She also speaks in a deeper voice because I think she is more of the earth
okay.
than the air. Um, and I think that really influenced. I also it was finding out that she had this kind of quasi southern rural, maybe midwest accent that you can't quite identify,
Mm,
but she's not an elite, she's not, she's savvy but she's not educated.
okay. Would you have liked her to been educated, do you think? Would you like to have had a bit more education behind her?
I don't know, because I think she's very street smart.
Mm,
She's certainly very good at math.
mm,
um I think she knows what she's doing with a computer as opposed to me.
yeah.
Um, I think she's lived a very full life and she's very street smart,
Mm,
very strong.
mm. Do you think, though, on a personal level, and I guess on Maud's view, do you think bounty hunting is more about justice, or do you think it's about making money? Um, yeah.
I think at first it was about making money.
Mm,
And that's always a thread, but I think that she started to develop this ethos of burning justice.
mm,
And when people did not exhibit that same moral way of thinking, I
mm,
think she got angry. And so then it became less about the money and more about the justice.
mm. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So going on more about the community and the way people receive the game and the way people play it. How do you think Maud is perceived by the GTA community? Do you think she's a popular character? What's your personal views on what you've seen?
Um, I truly did not know. And then, well, when GTA 5 came out, I was doing a show at the Arizona Theater Company.
Mm,
And I was doing The Importance of Being Earnest, this, very precise little British comedy.
yeah.
And the director came into rehearsal one day and he went, "Oh my God." And I said, "What?" And he said, "You're Maude."
Wow.
And he said, "I played the game last night. I just got it.
Mm,
And I was playing the game, and there you were." And I went, "Yes, I am Maude."
yeah.
And then it sort of got known,
Mm.
and I went to do a talk back about the play at the university, and I was swarmed by all of these kids basically asking me about Maude.
Wow.
It's really fascinating. And that was the first hint I had at how popular Grand Theft Auto 5 was going to be.
Mm.
And then I guess it was about 2 years ago, it was during the pandemic. I was just, surfing the web, and there was an article about the five top characters in the Grand Theft Auto universe that were female.
Okay.
Right there was
Yeah.
Maul.
Wow. Number one?
I
Or
don't think so. I think she was three or maybe four,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
But I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
And then to have that information of how many people were talking about her, thinking about her, and imagining what her other life is, and then to get the call to come back and resurrect her was mind blowing.
Mm.
And I was told by so many of the people at the studio that day that they constantly hear feedback. And one of the characters they wanted brought back was Maude.
Wow. Yeah. How do you feel about the love-hate sort of relationship? Um,
Well, I think, anything now, we all get scam phone calls. I get at least 10 a day, sometimes
mm.
in Chinese. And I'm like, just stop calling me.
Yeah.
And now if it comes up, I won't even answer. But there's something in the game that triggers that
Mm.
in how you're playing it.
Yeah.
So I think if you want Maud to stop calling, ignore her.
Yeah.
my thing. I have no control over that.
Yeah. I mean, there is a way you have to buy a certain I think it's one of your buildings, but that people are complaining about how expensive it is in the game. It's something like 2 million or more to buy, so it's quite hard to
Wow.
get you to stop calling.
Wow, that I
maybe the
did
game
not
did
know.
that. Maybe the game did that deliberately. I'm not sure.
Oh, you never know.
Yeah, that's why we got to keep working for you. They're trying to make you a prime character, clearly.
That's right. I would like there to be a whole mod series now.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe a Maude and Trevor spin-off. That would be pretty cool.
That would be really fun. I
Yeah.
asked as soon as I got to the studio, I said, "Where's Trevor?" And they
Mm.
said, "Oh, he's probably in jail or he's somewhere in the hills or."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. So this has nothing to do with Trevor." And they said, "No." I was like, "Oh, but I miss Trevor."
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. He's a great character.
But I
Uh,
think the thing that's really fun this time is that she's interacting with not only her daughter,
mm.
but with the player directly, because the player becomes the person who buys bottom dollar bounties.
Yeah.
And what is so interesting is when we were filming it, there were no lines from the player. So it was working off of like a blank slate, thinking of the
Yeah.
million people who might be that person. And it could be a man, it could be a woman, and they could be blue collar, they could be a gang member.
Mm.
And how she reacts to each of those possibilities is she happy to have this sale go through to someone who might be a criminal themselves?
Yeah.
Or she is that justice thing still a part of it?
Mm.
But I don't control that.
No. Have you played the game yourself? Have you done much with it? Have you had a
I
look
have
through?
not.
No.
I
Oh, you
have
need to.
not.
You and Stephen need to sit down and do a game together. I feel like it
That
should
would
be a
be
thing.
fun.
Yeah.
That would be
If you could
fun.
persuade
Yeah.
him somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had to actually, it's why I'm so grateful to
Mm.
some of the players. And particularly, there's been an awful lot of people internationally because they post videos
Mm.
of the Maude and Trevor scenes of the, that's how I see it,
Yeah,
is when
yeah.
they post stuff on YouTube,
Yeah, you can just see it online. Yeah,
which is
so
lovely. Because
mm,
I even asked, I said, hey, could you guys send me the footage? And they went, no, just go on YouTube. It's there.
well, yeah, 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 I guess it makes sense really. I mean, it is everywhere and it always will be.
But I'm
It's
so
always
grateful because I don't have a game console. And
mm,
so I'm not able to see the
mm,
work, you know,
mm,
because it's so funny when you do go in, you're in the motion capture suit and you're like, what am I wearing?
mm,
What am I doing? You know, you might know where you're sitting or what you're doing. Like I knew I was on a big bouncing ball
mm,
in this new module, but you don't know what you're wearing, what, you know, I kept saying to them, because one of the things is when I walked into the studio and the director and I saw each other, we both went, oh my God, we're both gray now.
mm. Okay.
Wow, in
Yeah.
11 years.
So to be fair, they seem like after 11 years you going back, they did the recording quite quick for the update, it seems to be. Was it quite yeah,
Yeah,
bringing you into it again?
it was pretty fast
Mm,
that we did it in terms of, I think there were 2 or 3 days, you know, in the studio. And again, then there was another voiceover day um, for the phone calls,
mm,
those wonderful phone calls that people tend to hate. Um, but it was so great
mm,
because it was kind of like sliding back into a pair of shoes that
mm.
were really comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was very funny because the first day I got there and we suited up, um, all these new people who had not been there 11 years ago. Every time I walked past a door or something, somebody would go, oh my God, she's OG. She's
Mm,
OG. And I kept thinking, I heard this OG, OG, and I was so worried.
mm,
And I finally, there was an assistant who took me to the set, and I said, I have to ask you something. Everybody's whispering about OG,
mm.
OG. And I said, does that mean like, oh God, she's a bitch to work with? And they
No.
said, no, it means original,
Yeah.
original game. You're like someone they respect and honor and are absolutely amazed. And there were actually two people who were overworking, I think, on Grand Theft Auto 6 in another
Wow.
studio who had worked on Grand Theft Auto 5 11 years ago.
Mm.
And they came and saw me at lunch and we were reminiscing and it was fabulous.
Wow, okay. So you just dropped a line in there a little bit, really, for GTA 6. um, you
Oh
might get in
yeah.
trouble for that.
I just kept saying, please. Well, we all know they're working on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Is it the workers or any of the actors you saw in there
no,
from?
no, I didn't see any other actors
I'm
except
sure you did. No.
I
Yeah.
just saw, you know, who was the man who was playing the player, and
Mm,
then the girl who was playing my daughter.
mm,
Um, but it was so much fun because we had a ball, we had, you know, the set, the whole thing, and because I knew the character so well, the idea that after 11 years you could come back um, is really exciting for an
mm,
actor. It's why some actors throughout their career they like to play King Lear like 3 times,
mm,
um, but you don't get that chance usually as a character actress. And for me to have that ability to reimagine what her life in the last 10 years has been like, and then take the specifics that they give you in the script and
mm,
then imaginatively put together what that decade was like. Um, but also to see how obviously the technology has just moved beyond uh, what they were able to do before.
mm,
Uh, but the thing that was so much fun was like I knew, for example, as an actor, that I had this ball, and my daughter saying, "Oh, Mama, you're exercising, and you got to take it home." And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm going to take it home." But then you make the choice as an actor. Does she really want to exercise? Or is this something her daughter's hounding her about that she's like hating? And so, as an actor, it was great because in the moment, I had this huge ball, and I decided that when she goes, "Mommy, take it home," and she's like, "Yeah, I'll take it home." And she
Mm,
gave it this kick.
yeah.
And what I loved was the minute I did the kick, everyone in the studio started laughing. And everyone who's seen that thing, the clip on YouTube or whatever, just cracks up at that moment. And so I'm so proud of that moment because that was my choice of this is how Maude feels about her daughter saying, "Take this exercise ball home and exercise." She wants to go home and watch her soap operas.
Mm.
But no, Jeanette's being a pain.
Yeah.
I just thought it was hysterical.
Yeah. No, it
Able to
sounds it.
create something, and then have that moment of, because I did it then to spontaneously do something that is organic, that's an actor's dream to
Yeah.
be able to have a moment like that.
It's incredible. I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to take in.
It is, and but it's so much fun, and she's become a real part of my life. It's very funny. My husband goes around and tells people that I actually have the tattoo that Maude has. And I'm like, I do not tell people that.
That's
But
funny.
there are people who do believe that I have the tattoo.
That's funny. You should get one. You need to make it true now.
Ah,
Um, yeah, I mean, moving into more about Grand Theft Auto and the creators, I've got a couple of questions. Well, I mean, there's a couple more than a couple. um, Grand Theft Auto characters are often extreme or controversial. Did you ever struggle with how your character was portrayed in any way?
hmm, not while I was doing it.
Mm,
I was surprised when I saw the finished product,
mm,
just in terms of what she looked like.
mm,
That was something that I didn't expect. Just because I was like, oh, okay. Because to me, as an actor, hair and clothes all inform how you do something.
mm,
And to not have that information was, okay, so now I see what she looks like, what she sounds like, okay. So it was a missing piece of the puzzle that was kind of not shocking, but surprising when you saw how they saw her. Thank God I had all that information, though, going into the next round of it. Um, but I don't think there's anything that Maude does, as we talked about her moral sense of justice. I don't think there's anything controversial in how she's portrayed,
mm, mm. Okay.
other than maybe hanging out with Trevor.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Um, but were there any parts of the character's story that you found difficult or uncomfortable to act out at the time as well? I mean, I'm sure you just covered a little bit there, but
Um, no, I don't think so. It was, I kind of filled in everything with my imagination, that I didn't know, those blank spots, and filled that in.
mm,
Uh, the only thing that was difficult for me in the update was that I filmed it in between when I fell and when I had the surgery. And so my left arm wasn't able to raise completely all the way. So I had to say, okay, on this thing, I can't do that. is there another way I can do that to make that move full? That was the only thing that was a difficulty at all.
Mm, mm. More of a personal side of thing towards it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
like now I can totally do it. So I'm like, oh,
yeah,
please, you're back. Now I could do a whole lot more.
yeah. No, it's good. I mean, but how do you feel about, playing a part in one of the most violent video games? Do you think it could influence players, the game itself?
Well, I totally understand why you wouldn't let children play this game.
Yeah, and there's a lot that
Um,
do.
yeah, and there are. But I think in a way it's a complete fantasy
Mm,
world that players can get involved in.
yeah,
Um, I think there's always the the prospect of someone taking something the wrong way or then acting out on it. And so there will always be controversy about movies and plays and TV shows because people get the wrong idea and start to emulate rather than going, okay, I understand this is another whole world. And this, because I personally can't stand guns.
okay, it's good.
I would not
Of
ever,
course, yeah,
you know, have a gun, nor would I ever fire one. I was in a play once where someone fired a gun at me, which made me very nervous.
okay,
Um, but I'm totally anti-gun.
mm,
But for people who take it as a fantasy, and they have what do they call them here? I've heard called rage rooms, where you
okay.
can book an hour to go into a room and break plates and shoot targets and scream and
That is
yell
crazy. Yeah.
as a safe place to get it out.
Mm,
So if you are using the game that way to get out your hostility, great.
mm,
But I do not think it's a great way to live one's life.
mm. Yeah, I mean, it's very controversial as well, isn't it? The game. I mean, there's a lot about it. Do you think it's helped the game being controversial, or do you think it's hurt the game being controversial?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean,
Mm,
I don't have the figures, but I know it's one of the most popular entertainment forms that has ever been.
mm.
Um, I know there is a huge controversy about how women are portrayed
Yeah, you've actually got
in
my
the
next question there as well. So I was going to ask you about the representation of women.
yeah, I think
Good, you're
that
leading on to that.
they had, times change and we evolve, thank
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Um, and I think that women are no longer interested in just being sex objects.
mm,
And so in Grand Theft Auto 5, most of the women in that game are partners or lovers or whatever. So Maude is unique in that aspect because she's not that.
mm, mm.
And so none of that controversy has affected me or my character,
Yeah, she's a
really.
very chill girl, woman in the
She's
yeah.
she's different
Mm,
in that. And what I like to think is that the makers of the game have evolved to go, oh, let's put women. And that's why I love the fact that the player who buys the bounty business,
mm,
bottom dollar bounties, can be male or female,
mm,
and that there are criminals now who are male and female. So
mm,
I think that we have evolved, and maybe in the future with other video games and things, there will be very strong moral women
mm,
who are
mm.
independent of their
Yeah.
relationship with anyone.
What about like certain different groups of people as well? Do you think it's fair how they portray them, or could it improve as well?
I think it can
With different
always,
backgrounds. Yeah.
I think we can all always improve.
Mm,
I think the one of the biggest problems today in this world is the othering of people
mm.
so that they are not like me. They're all from gangs. They're all from, you know, a country where it's gone insane. They're all from
You're making Maud sound very innocent here.
she's not though.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
she understands this and has, I think, as we all have certain biases.
Mm,
Uh, and I think she falls prey to them, but I'm hoping that just like the rest of the world, we can learn not to other people and figure out what we have in common and not
mm.
what differences are.
Yeah,
Except I think Maude has this moral compass that is absolutely, you know, this is the line and you don't cross it.
yeah.
Which goes back to your question, about corrupt police. I think she'd be like, no, no,
Mm,
that's a line you don't cross.
yeah, yeah. She's got her limits. That's good. Um, Grand Theft Auto, what am I saying? Grand Theft Auto also, pushes a lot of boundaries. Did that make it more exciting for you to work on the game, or was it a bit stressful when it came to pushing the boundaries? Um, yeah.
Well, when I originally did it, I didn't know what it was.
Mm,
They didn't tell us the
mm,
name of the game or that it was part of the Grand Theft Auto universe.
mm,
We had no idea. I just knew I had these scenes with this character, and that's all I could work out of. So I had no idea of controversy or pushing because I had no idea what I was doing.
mm,
It's only now, 11 years later, that I go, oh, okay. And because I don't have the game myself and
mm,
have only seen things on, say, YouTube, um, I'm only still learning about things where they've pushed the boundaries.
mm.
I know they're always looking to better it and make it more inclusive. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, so it's always going to head that way, isn't it, as well?
I
For
think
the
so.
gameplay itself, yeah. Yeah, it's
I
going
think
to.
so. Yeah. And I think, it's a general movement in the video game world now.
Mm,
I don't think it's just Grand Theft Auto. I think it's everything. It's, Red Dead
yeah,
Redemption. I think,
yeah,
everybody's kind of moving to another place.
mm,
And I
yeah,
think that's very exciting.
it is. Yeah, it's very thrilling.
You don't know who's coming back. You don't know where, you know,
Mm. Do you have any information on GTA 6 walking into the offices and walking past the offices? Is there anything you can give away at all? Um,
nothing. I
no.
can't tell you anything
Mm,
because they are kept completely separate.
mm,
So you know nothing.
okay.
You
Um,
know nothing.
did you watch the trailer for GTA 6 or
I
not
did.
yet? Yeah, a lot of people are saying you look a bit like the older woman. You sound a bit like the older woman in the, where she goes a bit crazy in the little clip. There's that old woman in there.
Oh wow, I
A lot of
haven't
people,
seen that.
yeah, people are saying your voice is similar to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not me, but boy, I sure would like it to be.
You could be just telling me that because of the NDAs. So, but yeah, wow. I mean, so in the best way possible, I want you to give a reaction to the people that are complaining in Maul's voice. I want you to give a response to all the people moaning, saying, "Please stop calling me." I would like you to give a reaction to them.
Listen, honey, if you play the game and you invoke me, I'm gonna call you because you want to get missions, right? So if you don't want me to call you, then don't engage in the missions. If you want to be a bounty hunter, be a bounty hunter. And if you don't, go away.
There we go. We got it. Awesome. Love that. Awesome. Jodie, thank you so much for your time,
Oh,
quite literally.
oh. Is there anything else you want to discuss or any other questions?
I mean, we pretty much covered it. I had quite a lot there, and we touched base on quite a lot of controversial things. Actually, the considering the way the world is at the moment, and there's a lot of stuff going on outside of video games as well. What's your takes on the Hollywood downfall at the moment with the Diddy situation? Do you have a view and opinion on that if you've kept up with it?
Um, well, there's two different things. There's Hollywood downfall and then there's
Yeah,
Diddy.
but yes,
Uh,
true, true. But Diddy's
I
also
mean,
part of the downfall of Hollywood. So,
I think it's all part of the same thing. I think there's been for a long time, unfortunately, a group of people who have the wealth and the means to cover up what they have done.
mm,
And unfortunately, it's coming. Eventually, we pray, you want the good guys to win.
mm,
Um, and eventually we pray that the information will come out and that justice will be served and that people will not be hurt. But I guess my sense of hope is that the people who have been wronged, who have been abused, who have been hurt, will find some kind of justice and hope for healing. That's what I hope. Because I think for a long time, there have been quite a few people who have a
mm,
lot of money who can um, disguise or put away their misdeeds. Let's put it that way.
yeah. Do you think there's any more names that are gonna come down with him? Do you have any thoughts about it? With who could be
I have
next?
I have no idea. I
Mm,
really don't. Um, because I'm a workaday actor. I don't
mm.
hang out with those people.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
a
don't know
different
them,
industry.
you
Yeah.
know. Um, and also a lot of them are, kind of bi-coastal, and I'm mostly just here in New York. Um, but I think there have been quite a few people worldwide who hopefully will get a comeuppance and a
Mm,
reckoning.
yeah.
And, if they don't in this life, I sure hope they do in the next.
Mm, okay. So you haven't been to a Diddy party yet then?
No,
No,
no, never asked. Not
no.
my kind of thing.
Awesome. I'm surprised I haven't put that in the game yet and tried to put a portrayal of him in there. So
Yeah, that would be weird.
mm, mm,
I have several friends who have been in the game that I didn't know were in the game.
mm.
They tell me things like my dear friend Keith Randolph Smith uh, was telling me that when they were supposed to be on motorcycles, they were actually on little kiddie bikes,
Okay.
which is,
That's funny.
I think that's a wonderful little, tidbit.
Mm. That's quite a funny comparison actually.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
what the reality is when you make the game. That's why you have to use your imagination a lot,
Mm,
because there are things that you go, oh, this is not a computer. This is a pipe. Okay.
mm,
That kind of thing. You've got to fill that in.
of course.
And that's the kind of work I love to do because
Mm,
it gives me that extra challenge.
yeah.
So many times when you do a film or a TV thing, or even a stage play, they give you very strict parameters.
Mm,
And I think video games are much more wide open
mm,
so that you can improv and actually create so much more because you're part of world building. You're part
okay.
of creating a world. And with Grand Theft Auto, you are creating a universe, actually.
Mm, wow.
As you go through
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you're still part of that universe, even though each one is a distinctly different game.
Yeah. Yeah. there's so much to speak on about it. It just could go on forever, the conversation, couldn't it? Really,
Yeah,
especially with Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar. I mean, it's just the way it is, how it is.
yeah.
Yeah. Are
But
you still in
I,
touch? Oh
I'm
no.
so pleased that I got to be a part of the newer Rockstar.
Mm. Yeah, no, of course. Are you still in touch with any of the cast, or are you still in touch with the creators of the game?
I had
Yeah.
not been until, I saw them back at the studio.
Mm.
But the cast, other than the friends who are friends who admit and suddenly go, "Oh, I was in that,"
Mm.
and then you look it up and you go, "Oh my God, that's Patricia. Oh my God, that's Keith. Oh my God,"
Mm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what about the producers themselves? Are you still in touch with them, or no?
No,
Well,
no.
okay. Time moves
I
on.
mean,
I'm sure they'll
I
reach
was,
out
I
to you
was,
when they need
I
to.
was so pleased that the director was the same,
Hmm. Yeah.
but in that 11 years, other than him, almost everyone else had changed,
Well,
or
yeah.
they're over working on something else or whatever. And so,
They don't
yeah.
want the new information getting out. That's why I think.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
it's all very contained,
Mm.
you know,
Well.
even with the new update,
Mm.
the bill bottom dollar bounties.
Mm.
That was very hush hush,
Mm.
almost as hush hush as the the first time.
Mm.
I was like asking questions like when they said, "Are you free these dates?" I'm like, "Is this for a new game or is this the old game?
Mm.
Is this an old character or a new character?"
Yeah.
And they don't tell you very much.
It's very incredible how there hasn't been any, because I know there was a few about GTA 6, there was quite a few leaks, but it's quite incredible how, like you say, very well contained it is, because there's a lot of people working in that studio and office and people working for the game. It's very incredible how there hasn't actually been as much as you realise leaked.
I think it's sort of like, when people work on soap operas and things too, they don't want the ending to be revealed because it ruins it's a spoiler for so many people.
Mm.
And I think they want people to experience it in the moment, in the game, when it comes out, so it's fresh.
Mm.
And I applaud them for that because that's, I hate that when you're in a conversation with someone and they tell you, I saw this great movie last night. And then when she died, and
Mm.
you're just like, well, now I don't want to go see this movie because I know how it ends.
Mm.
Or I will see the movie and the whole time I'll be thinking she's
Yeah,
gonna die,
it's
gonna
how they
die.
keep the views up and how they keep the gamers gaming.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it keeps it fresh and more about storytelling because
Mm.
we don't know what the end is.
Mm.
And that's kind of wonderful.
Yeah.